This is Steve Adubato. More importantly, this is Uncut, and we are honored to be joined for the first time on our air by Shadae McDaniel, City Leader of All Stars Project New Jersey. Good to see you, Shadae.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve. It's good to be on.
Folks ask what All Stars Project is all about. You say?
Listen, All Stars Project is all about bringing people together. I mean, our mission is to transform the lives of youth in poor communities using the developmental power of performance in partnership with caring adults. We've been doing that for 40 years now, 20 years in Newark, and we use improv and performance to bring young people, old people, poor people, cops, students, business people. I mean, we use performance honestly to just level the playing field so people can see each other in new ways and create something they all have ownership to.
Shadae, what's Cops and Kids, the Cops and Kids program?
Oh, Operation Conversation Cops and Kids program. Listen, that is our internationally award-winning program that started back in New York after the shooting of Sean Bell. Our founder, Dr. Lenora Fulani, really found a way to respond to what was going on at that time by saying we need to do a little bit more than, I would say, reform. We need to find ways to get people together, kids and cops in a room to really develop a new conversation and a new relationship. And I'm telling you,
what's that sound like? What's that conversation sound like?
Yeah, listen, I'm telling you, when we get together here in Newark to have that conversation, it is like using improv and performance when you walk into a space and cops come in and police come in together and the tension is high and it's crazy. You feel you can kind of cut that with a knife. You start to play. We start to use improv. We start to perform, literally start to perform together, and you start to see smiles break into the room. And you start to see kids and cops start to have empathy with one another and start having conversation. So one thing I'll never forget, a kid said, we asked a kid a question after we played some improv games. We said, what's one thing that you're most afraid of every day? And the kid said, coming home. You know, I fear that I might not come home tonight. And then we went and asked the cops the same question. And guess what? The cops said the same exact thing. And you can right there see the friction and the tension just dissipate in that room. It's 90 minutes of the most transformative experience ever. Kids at the end of that is hugging and crying and laughing it up with cops in ways you would never see or imagine today.
So as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, you know, while this is part of a series called Uncut, it's also part of a larger conversation, series of interviews and full programs and forums called, quote, Confronting Racism. The role of All Stars Project in, quote, confronting racism is?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Steve, that's what we do in our everyday work. We use development in its design to confront racism and social inequalities and inequities. You can see that. I love what's going on today in the world. I think we are confronting racism in many ways, but I also love the fact that All Stars finds a way to bring all different types of people to the table that typically wouldn't sit down with Black kids, typically wouldn't sit down with Black kids from Newark.
That's right.
You know, and have real hard conversations. But before you can have hard conversations, you have to be intimate enough. You have to touch poverty. You have to touch racism. You gotta be able to embrace that and acknowledge that and confront that before you can move forward. So we do that using performance. And we really see how people develop, including white people, including cops, including anybody else, you know, develop from that experience.
Sure. You know, often when statistics are used in terms of describing race, you know, the numbers of Black and brown young men and women and older men and women who are Black and brown who are on the other end, on the wrong end of quote, a bad cop or a cop doing a bad thing, and a whole range of other statistics. Sometimes we lose, Shadae, the sense of who we're talking about. So here's my question. Who are the young people in the All Stars program, and what are they facing?
Oh, wow. You know, Steve, I really do have the pleasure of working with, I believe, our nation's leaders, our young people in the program who come from some of the most disadvantaged, disenfranchised, isolated situations and circumstances. Our young people, I mean, when I have conversations with them, one of the things we talk about is what it's like growing up in Newark and what it's like growing up in Jersey City. And when they talk about it, you know, I went to school this morning. On the way to school, I got on a bus and somebody got their face banged in with a bottle and blood was everywhere. And I said, so then what did you do? She said, I got off the bus and I went to school. Like completely not even recognizing that that traumatic experience definitely has an impact on your day. And what our young people, at least at the All-Stars, come to the All-Stars looking to do is how do you build with that? How do you create with that? How do we look at those obstacles which many disenfranchised poor people face as opportunities for growth and development? So our kids, to me, give us hope. They give us this sense of, you know, resisting a category and resisting labels and saying, you know, I might come from here, I might be from here, I might have this background, but that has nothing to do with what I'm able to give. Because honestly, our kids are not related to as people who have something to give. Poor people aren't related to as people that have something to give. So they come to the All-Stars and they realize they have
I'm sorry again for interrupting. That's what happens with the remote technology. They are victims, but they don't act like victims. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, Steve.
But they do not function and interact with others as if they are victims and in spite of what they face. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. It makes so much sense. And I want to just add something to what you're saying. I would even go out on a limb and say they don't even know that they are victims all the time because they are so isolated and detached from the mainstream that they feel that it's normal. It's normal to get on a school bus and see somebody get their head bashed in. It's normal to go through gang lines and go through violence on the way home from school. It's normal. So they don't even necessarily recognize that they're victims. And when they come to the All-Stars, their whole world opens up because we do take them on a journey with other people.
Well, Shadae, it's our job to understand they are victims and to give them all the support we can. And you and your colleagues are doing it every day. Cannot thank you enough for the work that you, your colleagues are doing. And with those young leaders that you're talking about, it gives us some reason to be hopeful. Thank you so much, Shadae.
Thank you so much, Steve. I look forward to doing this with you again.
Yeah, in a real studio. Thanks, Shadae. Adubato. See you next time.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the Northward Center, the New Jersey Education Association, PSC&G, Investors Bank, the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, New Jersey Institute of Technology, Atlantic Health System, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and by Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters. Promotional support provided by bestofnj.com and by New Jersey Monthly.
I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when I was 2. It's hard to grow up with CF. But I have an awesome care team at Goriab Children's Hospital, helping me do the things I want to do, like play lacrosse. And now I've been recruited to play in college.
Where you go for pediatric care matters.
Atlantic Health System, because every moment is a moment that matters.